In other words, Paul was saying what Thumper said, in Bambi, Mama says if I got nothing good to say, then don't say anything at all. That's what Paul's saying. Paul's saying, look, if you got nothing good to say, then just keep silent. Shut the little mouth up. You know the saying, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth because he wants us to listen more than we speak. And he says, look, when you speak, it better be words that are building others up according to their needs, that benefit those who listen. Those are the kind of words that you need to speak. I hear the excuse people will say, you know what, I just speak what's on my mind. That's just who I am. Whatever happens, happens. It's just who I am. They got to learn to live with it. They got to be able to take it. Wrong. That's not true at all. If that's not their problem, it's your problem if you're speaking just whatever's on your mind and you're casting out and spewing out toxic words. We are called to speak life-giving words. And to do that, we need to pay attention to the things that we say, and we need to harness our words and make sure that there are words that God is really wanting us to be able to say. So I kind of offer you I wrote down here 4 habits for harnessing life-giving words. First is to use truthful rather than deceitful words. And by the way, these are not mine, but these are in the Bible, and you'll hear them in a minute. To use truthful rather than deceitful words. Proverbs 28:23 says, in the end, people appreciate honest criticism far more than flattery. Now, again, let us be clear. The Bible also says speak truth in love. And so, to just walk to your spouse, honestly, that's an ugly dress. It makes you look fat. I'm just being honest. No, that's not what's being said here. It's speaking truthful, but it's speaking in love, and rather than ones where, you're just, you look great, honey, and all of these would apply, so it'll kind of come out as we go into the next one. So first of all, use truthful rather than deceitful words. Second one, use gentle, there you go, rather than harsh words. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer deflects anger, but a harsh words make tempers flare. So my example of, that dress makes you look fat would be an example of a harsh word, not a gentle word. So we need to be sensitive to the words that we say and speak them in a way that is gentle, that is loving, that is encouraging to the people around us. Third one is use helpful rather than careless words. It is not helpful at all to say that dress makes you look fat. That's not being helpful. Offer something that's helpful if you're going to talk about something in the way, we're dressing for the evening or whatever. Proverbs 10:32 says, the lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speaks perverse words. Take the time to think about the words you say and say, how can I communicate what I need to communicate in a way that is helpful, a way that is beneficial, not that's careless in the way that we say it. The fourth habit is to use selective rather than numerous words. I love this one, Proverbs 10:19. When words are many, sin is not absent, but he who holds his tongue is wise. Proverbs 17:28, the verse that really, I think Lincoln came out with this catchphrase, even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. That's the phrase, you probably heard it from Lincoln. I don't know if it's in the movie, I haven't seen the movie yet, but, better to be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt, Be selective in the words that you use. I often use it jokingly, and I'm guilty a lot of this because I can talk. I don't know if you guys know that, but I used to not, but I'm doing better. Oftentimes I said, I'll just talk until I can think of something to say. I'll just go on and on and on, and then finally, oh yeah, now I know what I want to say. That's wrong, because you randomly, when you just throw out words, you know that it's a shotgun approach. You're throwing out stuff is harmful to other people. We have to pay attention to what we say. We are called to pay attention to what we say and to speak in a way that is encouraging and lifting other people up, not tearing them down. Here's a rule of thumb that we can use. Whenever you think of something good, say it. When you have words in your mind that are encouraging or uplifting or inspiring, make a call, write a note, go up to them and say something. We seem to find it easy to think of the critical words, and yet we often go silent in the positive. I think in society today, and I would say in this room, and I would say to myself, we certainly hear far more the negative words, the toxic words. I remember in college there was a psychology class, and we were doing a study, and it talked about on the 300 things said, you remember the one negative one. It's just, that's the one you remember. Because we're prone to be drawn in and caught in, and those toxic words just log into our mind. And so we need to be flooded with some positive stuff. Honestly, if we had enough positive stuff going on, the rest of it would fade away. And too often we think of something, we thought, oh, that was nice, was what they did, or I appreciate what they did, and yet we walk away silent. And we shouldn't. We should say something. Send a note. Be positive in the way that we do it. And don't underestimate the power of a positive word. A simple note can go miles with someone. The other thing, though, is not only we speak life-giving words to others, but the other thing I really want to stress here is that we speak life-giving words to yourself and to your situation. And maybe this is the crux of what we're really kind of dealing with from ourselves when we're talking about toxic words, is that we can sit there and communicate them to other people, and I'm good at that. I'll say things to other people, what I think they should hear and what I know to be true, and yet sometimes I forget to say them to myself. God has got, you are loved by God. You're a masterpiece. God has got great plans for you, and God is working with you, and God isn't measuring you by the things that you do, and all these kind of things. I'll talk to people all the time, and then I'll sit at night and think, oh man, I screwed up. I can't get it right. What's going on? And it's like, I forget to speak the very life-giving words to myself. And we need to speak them into our own lives. Many of us have very life-killing self-talk going on in our life. And it's destroying us. We're letting the circumstances kind of beat us down. We're letting others' words fill our thoughts. We get caught up in a word that, even if it's meant unintentionally, but we can take it and just run with it and get stuck in these things that, I'm never going to be good enough. Life is always going to be stink. I mean, our circumstance can be such where I never get a break. I'm sick of my life, and on and on and on. We can just talk about these things, and we get caught up, and the things we talk about are our circumstances instead of the things we should talk about. Using life-giving words help align our head with our heart. I love the Psalms. I've said it before, because David will, in the same psalm, he'll communicate his feelings versus his beliefs. He'll think God has abandoned him, and then he'll end with, "You are my rock and my salvation." And I wonder if he doesn't just write the words so that he can get his feelings back to what he believes. It's like he's sitting there probably thinking, I'm abandoned in the darkness of a cave, and thinking, God has left me. God, I don't even hear you. Where are you at? And so what does he do? He writes it out. He says, man, if you've abandoned me to the grave, you left me to my enemies, on and on and on. He's writing about verse 10 or 12. All of a sudden he's kind of moving into, you know what? You are my rock, my refuge. You're my salvation. You're like a hen with wings covering me. And, on he goes. And he's getting himself through his words back to where his head is back where his heart is. And for some of us, when we communicate life-giving words, and it's an exercise sometimes of doing that so that we can move our head back to our heart, and we can kind of cleanse ourselves of the toxic things that we seem to give free access into our life, and we replace them with the things we know to be true. Mark 11, Jesus was teaching about faith, and he talks about using words in the context of faith. And so verse 23, he says this, truly I tell you, if you say to this mountain, go, throw yourself in the sea, and do not doubt in your heart, but believe that what you say will happen, it will be done to you, done for you. Now you can look at that and you can, and guard against this, because Jesus was not in a name and claim it theology there and saying, hey, just say it and it's yours. You want a Cadillac? Pray God to give you a Cadillac and go out there and it's in the front. That's not what Jesus was saying. Jesus was, I think, trying to be able to communicate to a lot of us. We spend too much time and energy talking about the mountain in front of us. Whatever that obstacle is in our life that is challenging our faith and causing us to question things, how life is unfair and how the challenges are too great and we're never going to be good enough and all these kind of things. These are the mountains that I think in a lot of our lives, I'm going to fail again. I failed like 20 times. I'm going to fail 21. I know I'm going to do it. And they just continue to build this huge mountain in front of us. And Jesus, I think, is saying to us, instead of talking about the mountain, talk to the mountain. Instead of talking about how bad things are and things, speak truth into that situation of what God's truth says and saying, no. That's not something I'm going to fail at, because you know what? Christ has given me the power to overcome my sin. Christ is saying that through Christ I can do all things through him. I don't have to sit here and stick in this situation and feel overwhelmed by the conflict and the situation around me. I can trust in God. I can look at a future and think everything it might tell me I don't have a job or my finances overcoming and our house is in foreclosure and think, oh no, we're going to, someone's going to kick us to the curb and we're going to go out in the street and all this kind of stuff. And I can get caught in that circumstance of a mountain, or I can speak faith into it and say, God says in Matthew 6, Jesus himself says, don't worry about what you'll eat or what you'll drink or where you'll wear or where you'll lay your head. If God's going to take care of the sparrow, he's certainly going to care for you. He loves you even more than the sparrow. And so you don't have to worry about that stuff. Trust in God. That's speaking to the mountain. David, when he was facing Goliath, this little guy and this huge giant, that was his mountain. And everybody's saying no one can defeat him. He's just too big. David doesn't go into the pool of toxic words and think, he is kind of big, and I'm not really good with a sword and all this kind of stuff. He walks in and says, how dare you speak against the God of Israel? How do you think you are that you can speak that way? Give me a rock. Has someone got a rock? That's what David did. He spoke into that and in that situation. That's what Jesus is telling us to do, to speak into that situation, to speak God's truth in that situation, to be able to know when these things are attacked, these toxic things are attacking us, how to respond to that with the truth of what God has to say. Life-giving words, I believe, are the antidote to this toxic stuff. And we are filled with toxic stuff. And here we're given God's truth, which makes this toxic stuff powerless when we're guarded by it. And when we center on a truth that's founded in Christ and our relationship with him. Christ has given us the power. This is the beauty of it. God's not saying, hey, good luck with this. You guys got a battle. I hope you work it out. No, Christ says, you are a child of mine. You can do all things through me. I remain in you. You and me, we are one in this. And we are together in this. And Christ has given us the power to overcome these toxic words and make them powerless. Let me give you two types of words or actions that help overcome this power as an antidote. One is confession. I know you hate to hear that. And the other one is forgiveness. And you probably hate to hear that even more. I think when we think about God's truth impacting the toxic stuff in life, sometimes it's about confession. Sometimes it's going to a person and saying, you know what, I apologize. I screwed up. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was saying. I apologize for what I said. It was totally inappropriate and unfair to you. And I just confess that. Sometimes it's confessing to God. Say, God, I went there, and I'm sorry I went there because I know those are not the way that you are, and those are not words from you, and so I confess it to him. And sometimes it's forgiveness. Going to a friend, 8th grade friend, or a basketball coach, and not even having to say to him and saying, look, it wasn't intended in harm. It's unfair to label him for what he said. Sometimes people say stuff and we need to say, look, we're imperfect people. We make mistakes. We need to forgive them and not hold that against them. We need to both show confession and forgiveness for both others and for ourselves. Just being honest in those situations and knowing that we screw up, they screw up. Let's just confess it, but also let's forgive each other for that. And so the question I kind of want to leave us with today is, where do you need to apply this antidote in your life today? What are the stuff that you are hearing, the toxic words maybe that are coming in on you, that have been there, that are just festering deep within you, that's got this poison is in there, and it seems like every day you get up, someone takes that sword and pushes it down deeper into your life. What is that place where you know that the toxic words are just hovering in on that place? And what is the truth that God has given you, that God has for you, that can speak into that and remove that? And the other question on that antidote is, where is it that maybe you are a participant in that toxic words? Where are you spewing out things irregardless of what people think or how it impacts them, saying, I am who I am? Where is it where you know that what you say is not really the right thing, and yet it's a great way to get at them? It's just a little jab, just to knock them down in their place. We like to do that. We like to knock people down their place. Words are a great tool for doing that.